football fan, and wherever you may be and however you may be watching, thank you so much for giving us this little bit of your time. Look, I took 3 weeks off because I was tired. It's been busy around here and around the old the harsh truth casa. So I was taking the football time off that, and I was kind of avoiding not having to talk about the Niners. They're going to lose. bad couple weeks for the Niners, but we're back. But now that the Niners are back, I can talk football again. I feel totally not so vulnerable. But definitely planning to go into quite a few things to catch up on actually in the world of the NFL. And doing it with me today is the Shape of the Lone Star State, my man Tex. What's up, brother?
Your actions over the past 3 weeks have set a precedent. So if at any point in time my Cowboys shit the bed, I'm going to be busy, or I'm sick, or I have to wash my hair. Something. I just won't be here. But no, what's up, everybody? Happy football, Wednesday. Let's do this thing.
And Marcus took a new job, so at least for right now, he's going to be unable to join us on Wednesdays. But here to talk about football stuff with us is the Rose from the Rose Gaming. What's up, brother?
What's going on, Frank? Good to be back on the channel. Finally found something else I can do to help you out over here.
I'd love to do some baseball stuff. I know you're a baseball fan too, but God, it's just so hard during the baseball season.
Oh, hey, baseball.
And, not only that, but
what's that say?
Not only that, but
baseball.
Fucking baseball is so much longer too. It's so many more games and shit.
Yeah, I've knocked around the idea of doing like a, once a week, just pick a game and we'll just live stream for it and talk baseball. But I mean, even that's so hard. and what that says, Tex, is that's the logo of the team the Giants beat in the World Series several years ago. I
all I know is this.
I mean, not.
What is that? Is that World Champion Texas Rangers? Is that what that says? I think it does, right? Holy moly, that's weird. It says that. Well, I don't know how that happened.
You see all those championship, right? You see all those?
yeah. But y'all are like old and ancient. Y'all don't matter anymore. It's fine.
Maybe one of these days when the Rangers grow up, they can have as many as us.
Damn.
Meanwhile, Rose is over there, the Yankees fan. He's just like, rings everywhere.
Yeah. Rose over there looking like Thanos with the gauntlet. He's just got all the gold, so it's fine.
He's over here with like 3 or 4 rings on each finger. Like, that's cute. Yeah, that's cute. Yeah, you're talking shit to each other.
I mean, I'm still hungry for another one. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, the truth is,
cheated in fucking 2017. Don't forget.
Yeah, the truth is, it's like winning a championship only matters for about 2 months. Then the season starts again, and it's all old news. So, being an Ohio State fan, I listen to Michigan fans all the time say, "Oh, our all-time record against you guys is blah blah blah." I'm like, it's college. You go back 5 years, nobody fucking cares. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. I don't really care that in 1947 Michigan beat Ohio State by 60 points. Nobody from that team is even alive anymore. What do I care?
The only time something like that matters is if like history is on the line, like week 3 with the Broncos and the Dolphins, when the Dolphins were making a run for breaking the record for most points that are scored in the game. That's the only time shit like that matters, in my opinion.
Yeah, but he was barely then. It's like a nice little stat to hold on to. That's about it. But let's dive into the big stories, and the one that broke today. I mean, I wasn't even sure what big story from week 11 we could go into, but I mean, this is not small. Deshaun Watson is out for the year, and apparently he suffered an injury during the first half of the game against Baltimore on Sunday. He actually told staff about the Browns medical staff about shoulder pain after the game. So they looked and found out that he has let me look at the article that I pulled up real quick. He has I lost on here. Where did it go? Let's see. Fracture in his throwing shoulder is all it says in this article. I wish they would have gone into more specifics. But not only that, but they found out he also has a left high ankle sprain, which they think he probably could have played through next week. But Watson, Tex, he's only played 12 games in 2 seasons so far with the Browns. He's made $92 million. That's an average of $7.7 million per game Tex, I'm in the wrong line of work. I really should be a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. I can make a lot more money. I don't know. Tex, I'll go to you first. I mean, it's been such a wild ride for Deshaun Watson the last 3 or 4 years anyway. I mean, it seemed like he was poised to maybe take over the league, at least help the Texans really run the AFC. What were they in the East? Or the to run the AFC East.
South.
No, they're not the East. South. Yeah, they're in the AFC South.
They're in the South. Yeah, they're in the South.
It seemed like they were poised to kind of take over the AFC South for a long time. And then, his off-the-field stuff became a thing, and then they eventually just jettisoned out of town to Cleveland, of all places, where quarterbacks go to die. I mean, what do you think of this latest bump in the road for Deshaun Watson's career?
I really feel bad, and this may not make much sense here, but I really feel bad for the Cleveland defense and the coordinators. As good as the Cleveland defense is, that offense cannot get their shit together. For whatever reason, you've got Watson over here. Oh, I hurt my big toe. I can't play this week. While he's over there counting his $1,000 bills that he's getting paid to ride the pine over here. I mean, this is. I would love to say this was a shock, but this guy's pretty much injury prone, I think it's fair to say at this point. I mean, Cleveland's got some good weapons. They've got Amari Cooper, who still should be a Dallas Cowboy right now, but Jerry Jones wouldn't freaking pay him. So we're having to deal with backups for, CeeDee Lamb and everything over here. But, for Deshaun Watson to go down for the season, this has been, I don't know if the injuries are worse or they're just more reported. It's like the whole thing. Is there more crime now, or do we just hear more about the existing? But it seems like there are so many, from ACLs to just every, heart palpitation conditions, not caused by anything they were forced to take, of course. This is just the next one. I mean, how many NFL stars this season have had season-ending injuries out of freaking nowhere? I mean, now it does say something to his toughness that, Deshaun Watson played a half of football with a broke shoulder. So, he gets man card points for that. I will give it to him there. But, sucks for Cleveland because they do have talent and weapons there, but they can't keep nobody healthy.
I don't know. What about you, Rose? I mean, what do you think about this latest bit of news concerning Deshaun Watson and his inability to seem to get on the field for Cleveland?
Right. I was saying, fucking sounds like the guy can't stay healthy. And, he's making a killing, not doing anything. It's easy money for him, but I'm sure he'd rather be on the field for sure. And it's sad because he's pretty good. And, I'd like to see what else he can do with another team, but it's fucked up. The guy seems to not be able to stay healthy. Like you said, he played 2 or 3 games over the last 2 years?
Yeah.
Over the last 2 seasons with the Browns, he's played a total of 12 games.
12 games. Okay, I misheard. But yeah, it's unfortunate. You'd like to see what the guy can do with another team, for a full season. It's kind of, and I kind of, understand that too, because, being a Dolphins fan, you look at Tua and how he can't stay healthy. He hasn't played a full season yet with the Dolphins. Thankfully this year Tua's been good and he hasn't gotten hurt, but there's always that what if. He takes one bad hit and his season could be done. His career could be done.
Yeah, but I don't think Tua's making nearly as much money as Watson is, though.
No, definitely not.
No,
definitely not.
He's nowhere in the ballpark.
I'm just saying, though, I understand it, and with Tua's injuries, it's a little relatable. Different situations, but it's still relatable.
Yeah, for one, I wasn't a big fan of everything they gave up for Deshaun Watson anyway. The picks, the guaranteeing his entire contract.
Yeah, they mortgaged their future for this guy.
I didn't think Deshaun Watson was thinking about anything other than the money when he went to Cleveland, because let's face it, since the 80s, Cleveland has been where quarterbacks go to die. It's everybody they've drafted, everybody they've signed. It seems like there's either they were already past their prime anyway, or they drafted these guys. They had a ton of potential. They just couldn't develop because who the hell wants to go play in Cleveland? Nobody wants to play in Cleveland. I don't think this was ever going to work, and I think there wasn't too many people outside of Cleveland who really, really wanted it to work because they're diehard Browns fans that even wanted it to work. It's like, Deshaun. I mean, the allegations are one thing. I mean, I'm kind of past all that now, but it's like you're going from a place that was on the come up, a place that looked good. They had like Cooks, a wide receiver. They had a running back, I forget. But I mean, they were a team that was on the move. They were getting ready to make some noise, and you went to Cleveland from that, which is historically underperformed. No matter what kind of talent they've had over the last 15 or 20 years, they've always really underperformed, with the exception of like 1 year here and there where they put it together late, they squeak into the playoffs, maybe they squeeze out a win and make a dump by somebody who eventually goes on to go to the AFC title game. I don't know. I can't. I have trouble understanding it, especially when I also don't understand this idea that he wanted to play through it. It's like he could have been ready probably 2 months ago or something like that. Because he got hurt, and then the question is he's been cleared to play. He's choosing not to play because of protecting his body. And then there's so many people out there like, oh, well, nobody knows your body better than you do. So he feels like there's something wrong. Yeah, but I mean, come on, dude. You're making a lot of money, a lot of guaranteed money. You got to get out there. That's why I find it hard to believe that he actually wanted to try to find a way to play through it, or try to find or try to, or get. He got like 4 or 5 different opinions over the course of the last like 3 days. He tried to find some doctor that said, oh yeah, he can totally play through it. It's okay. You can wait till after the season's over and get it fixed. I honestly, I just don't believe that. I think that's PR bullshit. Like, look, he could have been healthy for the Niner game, and he chose not to play that game. And I was just like, yeah, I wouldn't want to see that defense either. It's like I would get a cold that day and be like, I'm sick. I can't play against Niner defense today. But
I just kicked my coffee table and my pinky toe was killing me. I'm not gonna make it today, boys. I'm sorry, but
I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, Rose, can we finally just look at all the Cleveland fans out there and be like, dude, this trade was awful, and you guys are fucked for the next like 3 or 4 years now? Because he's got, I think, 3 years left on this contract, and it's something like I want to say it's like a $60 million cap hit every year for the next 3 years, and this guy hasn't seen half of a season worth of games per year since he got there. Rose, can we officially say that this is one of the worst trades ever in the history of the NFL? And there have been some doozies.
Yeah, this has not been looking good for Cleveland, that's for sure. They've definitely, I think, given up so far in their investment, what they've gotten from him. They've definitely given up more than they should have, but going into it, you don't expect the guy to be injured as much as he has been. I mean, I just looked at Cleveland's record. They're 6-3 in the AFC North, tied for second place with the Steelers, only a game behind Baltimore. I believe they're playing Baltimore this weekend too, aren't they, on Sunday?
No, the Bengals are playing Baltimore on Thursday. Yeah, Cleveland's playing.
Cleveland's got Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they got Pittsburgh.
Cleveland's playing Pittsburgh. Okay, so if they beat the Steelers, they take over second place in the division. If the Browns win and Baltimore loses on Sunday, they're tied for first, even without Watson. So, I mean, while it does seem like a bad trade right now, if the guy can somehow stay healthy on the rest of his contract, maybe it'll even out. But at least looking at, their performance on the field and their, where they stand in the AFC North record and how they can still take first place in their division, it doesn't seem to be hurting them much.
You know what's funny?
Well, the reason it's not hurting them much is because of that defense has carried them. I mean, my God, that Cleveland defense, monsters on the field right now. If it wasn't for them, they wouldn't have the record that they did. That's why I said I feel bad for the defensive effort that they're putting in. They're putting in good work, but it's not going to get rewarded long term because you got to have somebody there to score points for you, and it's just not working out.
Well, one of the questions I have is the Browns right now are 6-3. I'm trying to go to NFL.com so I can get the schedule. They're 6-3. He's played a total of 3 games all year, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And they've managed to go 6-3. They're in the hunt for at least the top spot in the division. And they've done all of this without the help of Deshaun Watson. So 3 games that he's played in, they have. I mean, he hasn't really been around for any of them. It's like, do they even
That's
need
what
him
that's
at
what
this
I was
point?
getting at.
Well,
Right, that's what I was getting at.
even if they don't win their division, I still think Cleveland makes the playoffs, and I think they take the spot that I thought was going to go to the Bills. I think Cleveland takes their spot in the playoffs. Maybe it's it's obvious. I don't know if they win their division or not. Most likely not, but first wild card spot, I could very easily see them taking. I don't think they're going to win anything. I think it's pretty much stacked against them in the AFC wise. But I can see them taking the Bill spot. What I thought would go to them playoff wise. Just let's say this tracks out. They've gone 6-3 with Watson putting in a 50% effort. I don't know the rest of their schedule, but as good as a lot of the elements are within that Cleveland Browns team, 9-10 wins. I mean, do y'all think that's a possibility with what they might get out of this thing? I mean, what's it going to take to get a playoff spot? At least in the wild card, anyways. I mean, people are talking about Houston making the playoffs, and Houston's 5-5 right now, so they've got an even better shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Miami's 6-3, and they're on a tear. Depending on how whether they shit the bed the rest of the season or they find a way to take the division.
The only time Miami's on a tear is when they're playing a shitty team. Let's just be honest.
Here we go. I know. Come on, I know. I fucking know. Believe me, I wish they would put that narrative to bed.
I'm actually kind of wondering what kind of condition their defense is even in right now, because they only gave up 17 points to the Niners, who were missing a couple of key elements of their offense. I personally don't think that's an excuse, and I'm saying that as a Niners fan, but they did well. Next week against the Colts, which is not a very high-powered offensive team, they gave up 38 points. The week after that to the Seahawks, they gave up 24 points. They shut out Arizona 27-0, but that's Arizona. I mean, I'm not giving the Super Bowl trophy for that. And they just gave up 31 points to Baltimore. So for as good as their defense is,
that doesn't sound like a good defense to me.
That's 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. That's almost 100 points in 4 weeks. That's almost 100 points over the course of 3 games, really.
If you take that game with the Ravens, look at what the Ravens are doing. They've got Edwards going. Lamar Jackson is back to form. That team is rolling right now. That Indy game, I don't know what Jonathan Taylor's line was at the end of the game. I think he may have went off. I didn't watch all of that one. But I know he had a pretty good day for that one as well. If you look at it, scoring-wise, a lot of points are being given up. But somehow they're still one of the best defenses in football. It's one of those anomalies that you really can't explain. But like I said, I don't think they win their division, but I think they make playoffs. They may squeak in by the skin of their teeth, depending on who they're playing going forward. Like I said, I know they've got Pittsburgh this week that I think they'll handle Pittsburgh. Just my opinion, but.
And they already gave up 26 points to the Steelers in week 2.
Right.
A Steelers team that the week before had gotten blown out by the Niners in week 1. So.
But that Steelers offense is very bipolar. One week they can't get a first down, and then the next week they're putting up 26. There's a lot of teams in the league this year that are just – one week they're Jekyll and the next they're Hyde. There's an endless amount of teams. Dallas has done it. The Niners have done it. Detroit. Hell, the Philadelphia Eagles had to go into overtime to beat the Washington Commanders football team or whatever they are. So, even the elite team. And they lost to the Jets. Look at Kansas City. The greatest team ever right now. They have struggled maybe harder than anybody. So just looking at a stat line, I don't think it's a fair assessment because you're not taking into account what the conditions of the league are. I forget who I was talking to, but I said, every team, it seems like, took a step back from where they were last year. play is down across the whole league. 1 week you're a world beater, Super Bowl champion. The next you can't get a touchdown to save your life. So it's very, Jekyll and Hyde. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, all I know is this Deshaun Watson experiment in Cleveland. Honestly, if they don't win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years, this whole thing will have been a bust. This whole thing would have been an absolute waste of.
Well, that goes back to management for giving him $92 million.
Well, I wanted to ask you guys. You said Watson played 3 games this year. How did the Browns do while he was playing? Did they win? Did they lose? So if they lost, does it really matter that he's not there right now?
Right.
Well, as I'm saying, that's kind of my point. Is I don't think that he has been around enough to be to honestly say that he is a. Let me try to find it. To honestly say that he's been a factor at all. I mean, let's say he's 2-1. That means the four of their 6 wins came from somebody else.
Right.
It's hard for me to. I mean, it's hard for me to say that he's been a factor at all.
How many? Let's see. How Hunt went or not Hunt? Which was was it Chubbs? Nick Chubbs, the running back that went down earlier in the year.
Yeah,
wasn't it him? They've had Amari Cooper. He's been off and on with injuries this year. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's had his problems. They haven't been able to get all of the pieces on the field at the same time. Which, of course, I mean, every team is facing that problem. But somehow they've gotten to 6-3. We'll see what they can do going down the line, but I think they squeak by with just enough wins to just make the playoff cut. I really and truly do. And like I said, I don't see them going any further than wild card weekend, to be honest with you. But I mean, crazier things have happened, I guess. It's one of those things.
Since you mentioned Amari Cooper, Tex, I do happen to have him on my fantasy league in your league. And I could just do a quick rundown of the of what he's gotten over the season so far, if you don't mind. So let's see. So week 1, he got 6.78 or 6.7. He did pretty good. Week 2 at 16 points. Week 3, he went off with 24.6. Week 4, he did terrible at 2.6. Then they had the bye week. Week 6, 14.8. Week 7, 4.2. Week 8, 14.9. Week 9, he went off again with 24.9 points. Week 10, which was last week, he only got 5.8. He's got 15.8. So he's been pretty decent on the field. He's only had 3 bad games, really. 2 really good ones. So
Cooper's a great receiver. I was very upset whenever Dallas did not pay him to stick around because the connection that he had with Lamb, I mean, they were the Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper kind of relationship. One fed off of the other. And, whenever he went to Cleveland, I knew he was gonna be missed. And, I mean, he's obviously a talented guy, and him and Watson are a hell of a team when they can get together. They're both talented players, but Watson can if Deshaun Watson were to go outside in 65-degree weather, he's going to catch cold and die. It's just he's one of those kind of guys. He's soft. He is what he is. And unfortunately, hey, he's got $100 million coming to him in an NFL contract.
Right.
He didn't have to do anything anymore. And just like Frank said earlier, enough of it is guaranteed that, you know what, even if you don't get that extra $20 million at the end of the day or whatever, it's not a big deal. You know what I mean?
It just seems too like he's so injury prone lately that you could fucking sneeze on the guy and he'll break something.
Right. If you blow in his general direction, he's going to fall over with a broken leg. But it is what it is.
So he started 6 games this year. He's 5-1 with a 61% completion percentage, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions.
So that means he actually did make a pretty good impact in their record this year.
Yeah, but again, I mean, 7 touchdowns to 4 interceptions is not great. I mean, his completion percentage is good, but
What's
I mean,
his-
again, who all did he beat?
What's his quarterback rating this season?
Quarterback rating. Let's see. Get back to this. Completion percentage, quarterback rating. 84.3. That's above average.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not
PJ
bad.
Walker. Well, the guy who's going to be starting this week against the Steelers, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, his quarterback rating is 28. And he's 0-1 as a starter this year. So,
Well, I mean, he hasn't seen much action. Can you really compare the numbers between the two, though?
He's probably going to get eat up this weekend, but I mean, God bless him, I guess, whatever. But I don't know. Like I said, I think Cleveland is one of those doomed franchises that it's, Frank, like you said earlier, it's where quarterbacks go to die. I mean, they basically killed Johnny Manziel, Colt McCoy. What other quarterbacks that came through there that were great in college but never amounted to anything in the pros? There's a laundry list of them. But it's on management for giving this guy that much money. They should have never given up the picks that they did and given him this contract. They had Baker Mayfield. They should have never let the guy go. I don't know why they let go of Mayfield for Watson, but it is what it is.
They're probably regretting that decision right now.
Right. I mean, and I'm not saying Mayfield's Joe Montana or anything, but he's a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson is. And I would, if you put those in front of me, I'm going to go Mayfield. But and he plays cheaper too. You don't have to give him $100 million. But hey, I'm not an NFL executive.
Are you really going to discredit the backup quarterback this week? I mean, not to keep going back to the Dolphins as an example, but remember what fucking Skylar Thompson did, their freaking third-string quarterback, to the Bills in the playoffs last year. Almost beat them. Yeah. I thought they were going to get slaughtered.
Well, I'm not discounting anybody. I just know that if I had Baker Mayfield, I would have rather had him over Deshaun Watson.
Well, if for no other reason than Baker Mayfield has been able to get on the field.
Right.
He's been healthier, that's for sure.
Baker Mayfield, for all of his faults, he's managed to put together some decent games. I'm not entirely sure that if Baker wasn't there, they would still be 6-3, and Baker Mayfield would have actually played all 9-10 games at this point. That he would have been a little bit healthier. I mean, he hasn't had. I mean, yeah, he had some problems in Cleveland, but it's like since he left Cleveland, he's been healthy. Production has been because he's been with teams that just weren't very good until he got to LA last year. He did some decent things with the decent Rams team that they had finally found their rhythm last year, and this year he's been pretty good with a fairly decent Tampa team. I mean, I don't think they're going to contend for Super Bowl this year or anything, but I mean, he's got stuff to work with and better coaches. So, but anyway, go down the comments below. Let us know what you guys think about Deshaun Watson being out for the season, and yet again not being able to put together a full. This is what 3 or 4 years in a row now that he hasn't been able to put a full season together. I think this is the third year. I think 2020 was his last full season. In 2021, I think that's when he took the whole season off for injury. When in reality, he was probably just trying to avoid having to be in the spotlight when all his legal stuff was happening. And then the 2 years in Cleveland where he's just been banged up. So. Go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think about Deshaun Watson being out for the year. Let's move on to the waiver wire now. I'll go to you first. The Rose, who are you targeting on the waiver wire for this week?
To be honest, I think my teams are pretty decent. So what I really need is a running back for your league because Bijan Robinson is on bye week this week. And my other options, I do have Gus Edwards, and he's been pretty decent over the last few weeks. But other than that, I don't really have anyone else, and I don't really have anyone else. And I looked through the waiver wire for a running back, in the free agency pool, and there's really nothing there that strikes my attention.
Well, I'm sure me and Tex are going to come up with a name that you might be able to use.
I was going to say,
I mean,
I've got a few if you need some.
I'm actually trying to work out a trade right now with. I was offered a trade, not to segue off, but I was offered a trade by Dale. He wants Michael Pittman from me, and he offered me George Pickens and Nigba from Seattle. But I countered him. I'm like, you know what? I don't need wide receivers. I need a running back. So I'm like, so I figured if he wants Pittman, give me one of your running backs so you have on your who you got on your bench, and he has a pretty decent one on his bench from Detroit. So I'm countered his trade to see if I get that.
Well, Tex, how about you? Who, if you look at the waiver wire and who's available in a lot of leagues right now, who are a couple of the guys that you're targeting?
Well, I've had 4 ads this week. One of them I could not believe fell in my lap. My pick of the week, ad-wise, waiver wire-wise, I got C.J. Stroud in 2 of my 7 leagues that I'm playing. Somebody cut him. Why? I don't know. But I was like, who can I drop to get this guy immediately? Because I needed quarterback help because Josh Allen's been crapping the bed here lately. So he's getting replaced. But, Rose, if you need running back help, I have 2 names that I think you can help here. Devin Singletary out of Houston. He's only 50% rostered. Just this past weekend alone, he went 30 for 150 yards. And he's got Arizona this week. So the way Houston's rolling, going into Arizona, that's a name you might get. Another
Singletary, I actually do have Singletary on one of my other lineups, but I don't think he's available in Frank's league. I think he's taken.
Well, here's another one that's even less rostered than he is. Keaton Mitchell out of the Ravens. He's kind of an undersized guy, but he's getting and I know Baltimore has like that running back by committee thing that they like to do. And I think that's why this guy's only 47% rostered. But the dude's putting up some good stats that I like. I think he's like 14 point something yards per carry or something. So he may not get you a lot of points, but he might be like a good flex or something. Now,
right,
non-running back wise, the other pickup that I had this week was I needed a defense, and the Washington Commanders were available. And normally I wouldn't pick them up, but considering my regular defense is on a bye, and Washington's got the New York Giants, this may be Washington's best defensive game all year. So I picked up the Commanders defense to fill in for my.
Yeah, I actually just cut Zay Jones from my lineup on Frank's league because he's been injured like all year. He's been very disappointing for me, and I know we're going to talk about disappointments in a minute, but he's been very disappointing. He played only 3 games this season.
Well, I mean, cut-wise, I had, 2 cuts because of non-production and 1 because I had to make room for C.J. Stroud. The 2 cuts for production-wise were Justice Hill out of another running back out of Baltimore because he's just not producing. And Zach Moss for the Indianapolis Colts, another running back. This dude's only getting 16% of snaps. He's not getting any play time whatsoever with Jonathan Taylor hogging up all the ball. So, dude had to go. Like I said, I had to make room for Singletary and a few other picks that I got. But,
so I'm going to take your word for it, Tex. Mitchell was available, so I went and grabbed him. He did put up some pretty good numbers the last 2 games, but other than that, he did not really play at all this year. So,
well, considering, like I said, the Ravens do running back by committee. So 1 week, Gus Edwards goes for 24 points fantasy. I know because I also have him on a few teams as well. But we're going into week 11 into the season. People are harboring running backs right now like they're made out of gold and diamonds. So you're going to have to dig on the pile to find something that's good. And Keaton Mitchell might be a diamond in the rough. I mean, he might be a bust. You never know. But what's the harm? It's, it may be better than what you have already.
I can tell you, my other options are Tyjae Spears from Tennessee, who has been not very good aside from a couple of games. Zach Moss is on a bye week. He's been decent. Robinson's on a bye week. Like I said, I have Gus Edwards. Dobbins has been out all season. I actually do have Singletary on the lineup in Frank's league. Actually, looking back at my roster right now. So that's why he's taking, because I have him. But yeah, so my running back options are looking very good right now. I got one guy out for the season apparently, and two of them out of bye week, and I am running one running back in the flex because it seems like a better option from what I'm seeing right now. Anyways, of course, I have time to change that up, and I got, like I said, Edwards and Singletary are my starting running backs on the roster. So
not a bad.
I've got three names for you: one quarterback, one wide receiver, and one running back. The first one is Josh Dobbs. He's available in 56% of NFL.com leagues and 51% of ESPN leagues. Last week, he had 268 yards, a touchdown passing, plus 44 rushing yards and a touchdown versus New Orleans. That's 25.1 fantasy points. That's third among fantasy quarterbacks last week. He did all this after looking pretty good with a very bad Arizona team, and in his first game with his new team. I got to be honest, I don't think Kirk Cousins is coming back. If he puts up decent numbers the rest of the year, I think this was the last year of Kirk Cousins' contract. He's no spring chicken. He's not exactly young anymore. I don't see him coming back. Josh Dobbs is a little bit younger. He's a little long in the tooth for a guy to kind of take over as a starter of a team. But I don't see any reason why this guy is not going to be at least a solid spot starter for the rest of the season. I don't know what his fantasy playoff schedule looks like, but you can't deny what the guy's done. Last week alone, 25 points per quarterback. That's gold. I mean,
he's actually available to pick up right now in your league, and he has been over right around the 25-point mark for the last 3 weeks in a row. He's got Denver Sunday projected at 16.17. He's got Chicago next week, projected at 15.5 points. Week 13 bye week, and then going from there, he's projected to get less than 15 a game. But I think Denver's not a very good team, though. Their defense is actually picking it up lately. I think he's gonna go past his projections again. Honestly.
Yeah, the other one, I'll go with my running back next. And Tex, I really thought you'd bring this name up. I'm kind of surprised you didn't. Is Rico Dowdle. I mean, look.
I thought about adding him. I did.
I'm going to talk a little bit about Tony Pollard more here in a little bit once we get to my fantasy disappointments. Sorry, Tex. But, they're facing
I'll be agreeing with you on that one. I'll be agreeing.
The Cowboys are facing a Carolina team that can't seem to do anything right now. So they're going to be getting blown out by the end of the third quarter, which means that the backups are going to probably see some garbage time stats. And and since week 2, you know who's got the most touchdowns since week 2 in the Dallas backfield? Rico Dowdle.
Rico Dowdle, yeah.
And he's only rostered to 6.2% of ESPN leagues. I'm starting to wonder if maybe the Dallas Cowboys somewhere, they're thinking to themselves, maybe we should have held on to Zeke and tried to get him at a discount, because it seemed like Zeke and Pollard were both together. They were complementing one another. Zeke was the bruiser at the line, and Pollard was the one that got you the yards between the 20s. And now that Zeke's gone, they've been leaning on Pollard, and that's just not what Pollard does. That maybe they need that bruiser inside the 5-10 yard line. He might be able to bust a couple 20-30 yard runs for touchdowns, but up the middle, that's not really what he does. But Rico Dowdle, I mean, he's one of those guys that maybe they're going to catch on and say, maybe we need somebody to be not necessarily running back by committee, but someone to help open things up a little bit for Pollard, a little change of pace, something like that, and maybe he's going to get some carries because of it. Also on the wide receiver tip, I mean, look at Noah Brown in Houston. He's got back-to-back 24-plus point games. Nico Collins, their main receiver, is returning, so he's been out for the last couple of weeks, which leads to a lot of Noah Brown's targets. But I mean, C.J. Stroud has been hot the last 4 or 5 weeks. You've got you've got Nico Collins, who's going to be the number one receiver. Having a solid number two and Noah Brown, that guy can get a lot of targets if defenses start keying in on Nico Collins when he comes back. So while he may not be busting out a lot of 24, 25, 26-point games, while he may not be booming, he's going to be a solid wide receiver too, or at least a really solid flex. For the rest of the season, I would imagine, as long as C.J. Stroud can continue his hot streak of just everything. I mean, look, the guy is kind of a lock for Rookie of the Year at this point. I mean, I don't imagine
it has
taking over.
Yeah.
That. So yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's got to be those three guys to be targeting him. And honestly, it's unfortunate that at this point in most of my leagues, I was looking around today at my 4 leagues that I'm in, and I'm like, there's not really any big moves I want to make. I mean, I want to go get some of these guys. I just don't really have the room for them. But if you're in a deeper league, especially something dynasty-wise, guys like Noah Brown could be somebody you jump on. Same thing with Rigo Dowdle. I mean, he I don't think he's that old. I mean, I don't know much about him, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, and Dobbs, I have no idea how old Dobbs is. I mean, just looking at him, it looks like he's 70. But yeah, I mean, these are guys that.
Can you imagine what Josh? Can you imagine? Because it won't be too much longer. Jefferson will be coming back from Minnesota, and now that they've got Josh Dobbs up there rolling, could you imagine what kind of points those two could put up together? Especially if you could stack those in a fantasy team, that could go really, really good. So if you're lucky enough to have Jefferson, because I mean, I know in most leagues that I was in, he was either the first or the second draft pick took. So if you were lucky enough to get him, I could see stacking those two and just racking up the fantasy points, for this stretch to the, playoffs. But we'll see.
Yeah, but go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think. Who are you targeting on the waiver wire? Do you think any of the guys that we picked can be helpful to fantasy rosters moving forward? Again, we're at the midpoint roughly of the NFL season, but we're getting down to the nitty gritty of the fantasy season. We've only really got about 5 weeks left or something like that. So yeah, 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's crunch time for the fantasy football stuff. So let us know who you guys are targeting on the waiver wire. Now, let's get disappointed. I mean, at this point in the season, there's got to be a couple of players out there that you've been holding on to. You've been waiting and waiting and waiting for them to pop and really help your team, but they just haven't gotten there. Tex, I'll go to you first. Who is somebody that you had rostered for most of the year that you are just disappointed in?
I've complained about this duo a couple times within our shows, but that's going to be old Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I mean, we know these guys are Batman and Robin. They can do no wrong. They're just lights out, whatever. More often than not this season, they've been a disappointment. 2 weeks ago, Travis Kelce didn't even get 3 points fantasy-wise, and Mahomes barely got – I don't even think he got to 20. So many people built teams around these two guys because they're point-making machines. And I'm not saying they haven't had good weeks this year, because they have, but there's been more bad than there has good. And considering the trade capital you're going to have to give up to get them, and or draft position to get these guys, they're probably – it was either these two or Jefferson, because Jefferson has been hurt for a good chunk of the year, and he was the top draft pick. But Mahomes and Kelce were more severe, because I built 2 fantasy teams around these guys, and both of those teams are in the crapper and will not be making playoffs. So, thank you, Taylor Swift, for just ruining those teams, because I'm going to blame her. But you know what? I just need a scapegoat here, guys. That's all I'm doing. So it's Taylor Swift's fault for ruining both of these dudes. But yeah, that would be my disappointment for the year, unfortunately.
How about you, Rose? Who on your roster have you been waiting to come around and be a big producer for your team, but just hasn't gotten there?
Like I already mentioned, I cut Zay Jones because he's been out for the whole year. I did have him on a fantasy lineup last year. He did pretty good for me, so I picked him up again this year, hoping to get some decent usage out of him, and I haven't been able to. And I could say the same thing about Dobbins from Baltimore. He's been out for the whole year. Can't freaking use the guy. And again, he was someone I had on a fantasy roster in my brother's league last year who did pretty decent numbers for me as well. So, I'm going off of experience of what I had. So I figured let me pick these guys up again and, let's see what they'll do for me. And I haven't been able to play them. And then I got H-in on Texas League. I've only been able to use him like once because after I signed him, he got injured and he's been out for the last 4 weeks. And then the Dolphins had their bye week last week. He's projected to come back for week 11, but it's not a guarantee yet. So I'm just waiting to be able to put him back in a lineup and see if he continues to go off like he has been. As far as other players, my lineup has been pretty solid. Most of my players have been hitting their projections at the very least, aside from Bijan Robinson, who only failed to reach his projections like once because he was sick and didn't play. But as other than that, my players for my lineups that I have been pretty consistent.
Yeah, I've got 3 guys that I'm really disappointed in. One in particular, I'll save that one for last. One of them is Trevor Lawrence. For as good as Jacksonville's been record-wise this year, and for some of the noise that they've made, and don't get me wrong, I mean, after the chaos that was the Urban Meyer experiment in Jacksonville, I'm glad that they've kind of made a comeback because I want Trevor Lawrence to be successful. But fantasy-wise, the guy hasn't done shit all year. He's only had 2 multi-touchdown games all this season. He's only been a top 10 in fantasy quarterback points twice all season. He's only been in the top 15 3 times. Look, we're more than halfway through the fantasy season. We're about halfway through the regular season. I mean, he's winning games. Yeah, he's winning games, sure, but he's not putting up fantasy points. And he's got some weapons. Now, granted, that team is still growing. So a year from now, he could pretty steadily be a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Whatever they're going to add in free agency in the draft might help him out. But this year, he hasn't been one of those guys that I've wanted to lean on, and I found myself having to a couple of times because of bye weeks or injuries or shitty quarterback play or whatever. I mean, he might be a little bit of a streaming option, but he's not going to win you any games. The other one is Dameon Pierce, the running back from Houston.
Yeah, he's been sucking for me too, actually.
Yeah, he was one of those guys at the end of last year. I was just like, this guy could be really, really good. Houston, a team that for the last couple of years has leaned on the run. They got CJ Stroud, but I figured a rookie quarterback, while he's growing, they're still going to lean on the run, so I'll probably put up some good points. Unfortunately, he's only broke 10 points twice all season. And he has also been hurt. Devin Singletary has looked good filling in for him, and that doesn't help. So when they are both healthy, it's probably going to be more of a committee thing. And on top of that, the success of C.J. Stroud, because he's actually been a very good quarterback this year, means that they don't have to rely on the running game. They don't have to be so run-centered. He can actually throw the ball to Nico Collins. He can throw the ball to Noah Brown. He can throw the ball to who's the tight end Cowboy guy, former Cowboy.
Dell is the other wide receiver.
Tank Dell is there. I mean, and he's got the tight end from Dallas that they got. Who'd they get? Why am I drawing a blank on the name? Yeah, Dalton Schultz. I mean, so he's got plenty of weapons. They don't have to rely on him. Dameon Pierce, boy, his fantasy value really fell off fast this year.
Yeah. I actually have him. I don't mean to cut you off there, Frank, but I actually do have him in Texas League, and looking at his numbers, he only got 4 points last week, and then the week before that was his bye week, and the week before that, in week 6, he only got 3.4, and then 9.2. He hasn't broken 10 points since week 4.
Yeah, and I'll stay in Texas for my other guy that's been a bit of a disappointment. Tex, your boy Tony Pollard. I mean, I've been dependent on him. I expect Zeke gone. It's Tony Pollard's show. They gave him the keys to the Cadillac with the horns on the front as the hood ornament, and he hasn't really done.
I've got my horns right up here.
He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1. He's only scored 10+ fantasy points 3 times since then. I mean, what is the deal with Tony Pollard? look, I expected with Zeke gone that it was going to be his backfield, and for the most part, it has been. They haven't gone to a committee. I mean, is it just a byproduct of Dak's working well with his receivers, and they're definitely a pass-centered team now? Or, I mean, what is it that's as the Cowboys fan, what is keeping Tony Pollard from hitting the kind of fantasy numbers that a lot of us expected him to hit?
It comes down to two factors. Obviously, at the end of last season, whenever your Niners cheated to win the game and had to go break our running back's leg. Fuck the 49ers. Sorry. I had to clear my throat. Okay, obviously, he breaks his leg the last game of the season. He hasn't looked like the same Tony Pollard he was explosive last year. He could just blow out and go. And Zeke is no excuse. Zeke wasn't even averaging 2 yards a carry last year. He sucked. There's a reason why we let that, old train go. But when it comes into this season, obviously for the first 6 or 7 weeks, the Cowboys didn't even have a red zone touchdown. The offense was struggling. They had not figured it out. And then Dak just clicked with all the wide receivers. I think they said on the radio yesterday, they're like 12% higher passing than they were because that's what's getting them wins. Dak is hitting CD Lamb. We're getting Gallup in this thing. We're getting Jason Ferguson, the tight end, is going off. So, unfortunately, Tony Pollard, he just can't cut the mustard. He was in most leagues that I was in, he was a top 3 pick, like top 3 round pick. And unfortunately, like for yourself, a lot of people have, thrown this guy to the wolves because he just sucks. And when Dallas goes into the draft this year, they need to go get a good running back and an offensive line because they've patchworked their offensive line together, which also results in a crappy running game. But, there's many contributing factors.
Yeah, that's been a big surprise for me. I really expected. I mean, I wasn't expecting him to have 12 touchdowns at this point in the season, but I mean, we're down week 10. I figured him to have 4 or 5, and to maybe even have one big game where he runs for 150 yards in a couple of them. But he's just not doing it like that right now, and I can't figure out what it is. But I can't bring myself to drop him because he does have a very favorable fantasy schedule down the stretch. I mean, he's playing some relatively weak run defenses. So it's like I feel like he's going to catch fire when I need him the most in the fantasy playoffs, but I'm not 100% sure. You know what I mean? But anyway.
I wouldn't hold my breath, but,
But and to top it off, and you've got Rico Dowell there now. So, I mean, are we going to see split time? I mean, is that something that's going to happen for the rest of the season? So I don't know.
Not only is it Rico Dowd, but there's also the third guy, Deuce Vaughn. I don't know how many Cowboy games you've watched, but this guy's, if he's 5 foot tall, he's lucky. This guy looks like a child out there on the football field. They've been using him for kickoff returns and stuff, and he's I think he's technically their third running back. But this guy's so small, he gets lost in the field. Once he takes off running, you can't see him. So it's not as advertised as running back by committee as like Baltimore is or something, but Dallas does have the committee running back thing going, which is another factor of why Pollard is not getting you 10 touchdowns for the season. So, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, but go down the comments below. Let us know who has disappointed you at this point in the season. We're getting down closer to the fantasy playoffs. There's only a few weeks left in the fantasy football regular season. And there's probably plenty of players out there the guys have been holding on to that just haven't popped yet. So let us know in the comments below who is disappointing you on your roster at this point in the year. Now it's time to hit the panic button. I'll go to you first, Rose. I mean, somebody that you've been, again, not necessarily disappointed in, but I mean, you reached out, you got a guy, you would hope that he would help you out, but now it's time to hit the panic button and jettison this guy right away. Who are you hitting the panic button on right now?
I mean, Smith has been doing good for the Eagles, but he's been a little inconsistent. here and there. I mean, he did really good 2 weeks ago. Last week he did all right, but not what I expected. I don't think he's going to be terrible, but I could see him shitting the bed because the Eagles seem to be using A.J. Brown more, because I actually do have A.J. Brown in a different league. But probably Zach Moss, I would say. He hasn't been very good. He's only broken, I mean, he hasn't broken 10 points since week 6. And his best game was week 5 when he got 33.5 points. But he hasn't been very good lately. 7.2, 2.6, 0.2. That's fucking frightening, especially the last 2 weeks. If he keeps performing like that, I'm fucking throwing his ass out the window.
Yeah, Tex, how about you? We talk about this almost every week that we do this. At this point, it's not so much panicking. I think it really is kind of just being disappointed. But, I mean, who did you reach for either on the waiver wire or in a trade that you're now getting ready to hit the eject button on?
Well, this was a guy that literally led me to almost winning the championship against Drew last year. But unfortunately, that nasty Madden curse had to just rise up its ugly head and bite Josh Allen right in the butt.
No.
Yes.
He hasn't been as good, but I think he's still. I think he's.
This is the whole point.
Finish out strong. I think he's going to finish out.
This
strong.
is the whole point of. This isn't who you were disappointed in. This is the panic button portion of the show where this is reserved for the big boys. Where this is big stuff here. And Josh Allen,
I'm not panicking on him right now. I mean, he hasn't been
well,
what he was
you may
last
not
year.
be, but the dude. I mean, on that, if Dak Prescott played the way Josh Allen did, people wouldn't shut up about it because Dak Prescott, blah 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 blah. I don't know why Josh Allen is getting a pass.
It is your opinion. So I mean, like you said, I'm not panicking.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying.
If you want to do that, then go right ahead. Yeah. I can see it that way.
Right. No, this is just me. But Josh Allen, he's got so much potential, so much talent. But it seems like more often than not here lately, he can't get out of his own way. He's nowhere near playing as good as he was last season. Like I said, you could count on 25 from this guy last year. Every game I know because I had him. That's the reason why I wanted him again. But more often than not, you're lucky to get 17, 18 if you're lucky out of this guy. And it's just, he's riding the bench. I mean, because a couple of those teams that I picked up, CJ Stroud and everything else on, that's who's taking his spot. So Madden curse is a real thing, I guess, and it showed its ugly head. So sorry, Buffalo fans. But.
Yeah, he actually leads the league in interceptions right now with 11.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. He's premier talent, the next whatever. And he throws to the other team more than he does his own team. So, got to call him like I said.
Yeah, it's like the overtime loss to the Jets at the beginning of the year. I mean, I think that was a fluke. They beat the Raiders, which is no big deal. The Raiders aren't really that good. Beat the Commanders, who aren't really that good. Beat the Dolphins, which is, I don't know, I guess that was kind of a big win. Lost to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's coming up. Beat the Giants. Everybody's beating their Giants. Lost to the Patriots, who are just not a good team. Beat the Bucks, which is whatever. The Bucks aren't terrible. Lost to the Bengals. They just lost to Denver, which is not a good team. I got to be honest. I mean, I'm just looking at their schedule right now. They play the Jets again this week. I don't know. I would imagine they beat the Jets. Then they play the Eagles. I don't see them beating the Eagles. Then they have a bye. Then they play the Chiefs. The Chiefs will probably beat them. Then they play the Cowboys. I can imagine the Cowboys will beat them if they don't do something really crazy. They finish up against the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. They'll win two of those last three. I think they'll probably beat the Chargers. They'll probably beat the Patriots. Dolphins, I think, can beat them. But I mean, I think
the Dolphins are going to beat them next time. I don't think they're losing to them twice.
Yeah, it's something about him over the course of the last 2 years has just not gone well. And a lot of people say it's that Brian Daboll, the coach of the Giants, who was his offensive coordinator in Buffalo, and he had his couple of really good years. He left, went to take over the head coaching job with the Giants. And a lot of people said that from that point on, he's just kind of sucked ass. So if I was somebody in the Bills organization, I'd be calling down and just be like, look, hey, bro, how did you talk to him? What did you say? What would you say? I mean, we're only gonna. It's not like we're playing each other in a meaningful game anytime soon because they're in different conferences. So it can only be the Super Bowl if they play it. And I don't think either one of these teams is going to get there anytime soon. So I would say, hey, what would you do? What did you say to Josh when he had lost his mechanics or lost his way? But yeah, it's really shocking the fall off from him. It's disappointing too because I rode him to a fantasy championship 2 years ago in one of my leagues. I had doubled up him and I think Stephon Diggs, one of his receivers. And I don't usually do that, but I mean that was the last year that Brian Dable was there and he was doing well. And then the next year I think I had him as one of my quarterbacks in one of my leagues, but I had somebody else who was really good too. I forget who, and I was just kind of like going back and forth this week to week. But yeah, it's been really disappointing to see the way that he's fallen over the course of the last couple of years. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't have the answers for Buffalo, but if I did, boy, they would be a lot better off. But for me, the two guys that I'm panicking on at this point, I'm just about to move off of. I've already talked about Damian Pierce. I won't bother going into that again, but I pretty much had it with him. If I find another option at running back that's going to help give me some good depth or maybe some good matchups down the stretch, I would definitely move off of him for them. The other one, though, is Tutu Atwell, the wide receiver for the Rams. He's only had one 10-plus point game in the last 6 weeks. Stafford is coming back from an injury, which could help. But Cooper Kupp is the clear number one there. He's going to eat first. So he may be cuttable now. And to top it off, you have, what's his name? The guy with the funny name that was so big for a couple of weeks.
Oh, Puka
Nacua. Puka Nacua.
Yeah. I'm mispronouncing
him.
it, but you know who I'm talking about now.
Yeah, it's like, and to top it off, I mean, it's like those guys are almost in a battle for number two, which means that either one of them aren't going to get great stats. At this point, I'm just done with Tutu Atwell. I mean, and to top it off, I mean, I don't know what let me try to see what the Rams schedule is coming up. Right now, they're 3-6. They're in third place, or well, technically speaking, tied in second place because the Niners and the Seahawks are technically tied for first. But I mean, looking at their schedule coming up, they've got they got a bye week this week. They've got the Seahawks coming out of there. The Seahawks defense has been okay. They've got Arizona after that, which is, everybody's dumping on Arizona. Then they got the Browns and a good defense with the Browns, a good defense with the Ravens, a not so great defense with the Commanders, the Saints, the Giants, and then they finish off the year against the 49ers. So I can't imagine that he's going to have that great of a year for the rest of the year. And just looking at some of his stats, let me find him right here. 9 games started. He's got, let's see, receiving. He's got, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. He's got 32 receptions for 374 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's not great. He's not putting up great numbers. I mean, I'll go look at his game by game stuff, and it's 4-2, 1-1, 2-5. I mean, he's gotten a few more lately, but he actually did have against Seattle. He had a 119-yard game, but no touchdowns. Yeah, he's just not producing the way that I had hoped he would produce. But then again, the Rams have not had the kind of season that a lot of people thought they would have. A lot of people thought, last year, obviously, a lot of injuries, a lot of stuff went wrong. This year, a lot of people were hoping they would kind of come back to form a little bit. But the reality is that just hasn't happened. They clearly made that trade to get Matt Stafford for 1 year. We just want one Super Bowl out of this trade. Yep. The trade it worked out for me, in my opinion. But
they got him a Super Bowl. I mean, obviously it worked. I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah, definitely not as dumb as the Deshaun Watson trade in Cleveland. But yeah, I just think that for at least the rest of this year. Now, I'm not saying that they can't get healthy in the offseason, improved offensive line. Stafford maybe comes back healthy, even though he's 35. Healthy is a relative term when you're 35. But maybe he comes back a little healthier next year, or they get somebody else in the draft or a free agent or whatever, and that helps out the entire receiving crew a lot. But the reality is he's just not doing it for me fantasy-wise this year. Good news is he's only 24. He's got a lot of career ahead of him. And whether it's with LA or with another team with a solid quarterback situation, a solid team, he could still put up some numbers over the course of his career. But for this year, I'm kind of checked out on him. I really am. I'm kind of checked out. Puka Nacua actually has more targets than he does, has more receptions than he does. And so, clearly with Cooper Kupp coming back, he's going to be the clear number one. Puka Nacua is probably going to be the regular number 2. And I don't see Tutu Atwell getting a whole lot of looks the rest of the way out, especially against some of the better defenses he has to play. But go down in the comments and let us know what you guys think. Who are you hitting the panic button on? Who are you just ready to be done with? Somebody who you had a lot of confidence in, but now you're just like, I'm done. You're going to hit the eject button and move on. So now let's
hold on a minute. Wait. I don't want to move on just yet. Hold on 1 second. I want to go back to this. I want to go back to this Josh Allen thing real quick because I don't see it the way you guys do. You guys can see it as, you're panicking on the guy. He didn't have a great showing. Last time, it's probably one of his lowest scoring games, but you look at his 10 games that he played and he's gotten over 20 points 7 of those 10 games. 5 of those 7 games were over 25 points, and 2 of those 7 games were over 30 points. So even when he's not great, he's still performing very well, I think.
You want a knife? This shit's like falling apart.
The problem with it is,
hold on to that.
He may have a good game here or there, but you had to give up. Think about where, in order to get Josh Allen, you had to draft him early. So you could have took a good wide receiver, a good running back, another point scorer that's a more dependable pick. And Josh Allen has been so fickle. The interceptions have been horrible this year. What'd you say? It was 11 this year, Frank, or something, or 12 something? I can't remember.
He's leading the league with 11.
This is what I'm saying. He's not the Josh Allen that we all want him to be. Like I said, that's why I said Madden curse reappeared in 2023. But it's just considering what you had to give up for the guy to get him. That's why the panic sets in. I'm not saying he hasn't had a good game here or there, but there's better options at quarterback that you could have gotten and still drafted another points player to get you otherwise. So that's why I panicked on the guy. But, each their own.
Let me look up because I was looking at Pro Football, not Focus, Pro Football Reference, so it wasn't really giving me fantasy points. So I want to make sure I'm looking at his fantasy points. Because I think I know what Rose is saying, and I agree with him to an extent. We're not talking about wins; we're talking about fantasy points. So looking at
right.
What are we looking at here? So looking at fantasy points, yeah, first game of the year, not very good. He has been 20 plus most of the season, except for 2 games since then. So yeah, I get Rose's argument; it makes sense, but part of the problem with the interceptions is excuse me. I think in our league, well, it varies from league to league, but it's negative 2 points for interceptions. So that's 22 points that you've lost on this guy,
right,
especially in some big games. Let's see.
Well, and think about it. Those 22 points, obviously that's a huge thing. And like I said, normally quarterbacks go low in most leagues. So if your quarterback did get negative 22, you could go pick up another one. But you're going to have to, in order to get Josh Allen, you're going to have to give up a second or third round pick that you could have gotten the top receiver or running back or something else that is going to get you that 20 plus somewhere else. That's why the risk versus the reward to me weighs so differently. I'm not saying he hasn't had good games. I've seen the numbers he's put out, but for where you have to get the guy, it's been problematic. That's why I said what I did. But it's all good.
Yeah, but I don't know. I get where Rose is coming from, and I agree with
it. No, I get what he's saying.
It's a bad. It's also that's kind of that was the Jameis Winston argument too. Is that yeah, he threw 30 touchdowns that year, but he also threw 30 interceptions. So I mean,
they cancel each other out.
I mean, they don't fully point wise, but it's like there's a conception, there's a misconception when you look at that number that it's going to drastically reduce his fantasy value, which it does, but I don't. The question is how drastically. So I understand what the Rose is saying. He's got a valid point there that I can't overlook.
No,
but
go
down in the comments. Well, let us know what you guys think about if there's anybody that you're panicking right now. Real quick, I want to go to the chat. Somebody has got a redraft offer. Let's see.
I was just reading that.
Trade Andrews, Mixon, James Cook for Kelsey and Bijan, my 12-team full PPR. Stroud, Pollard, Mix, Cook, Reed, Memphis, tight end, McBride at tight end. So he's got his full roster there too.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
I got to be honest. For all the look, Taylor Swift bullshit aside, I'm not sold. I mean, Bijan, yeah, he's kind of the only offensive threat that they have. He has in Atlanta right now, but
yeah, but he ain't doing nothing though. I mean, 1 week he's, they're not telling you he's not going to play, and he cost me a game. I know that much, and I know there's a lot of other fantasy owners that he did that to. And even when he's on,
cost me a game too.
It's not like Robinson is getting 30 points a game. I really think if we were to redraft the entire thing, he would not be a first-round pick. I guarantee you he would not be a first-round pick.
Honestly, what he's doing at the very most is at least reaching his projections. He's not going very far beyond that.
I don't have his numbers in front of me, but I'd be willing to bet more often than not he does not meet projections. I would.
I'll give you his numbers if you'd like. I got them.
Sure. Go ahead.
Of course, this is based on Frank's league.
Right.
He has the first 2 weeks he got over 20 points. Week 3, 10. Week 4, 18-7. Week 5, 11-8. Week 6, 13. Week 7, he was sick and only got 0.3. Week 8, 12.3 or 12.2, excuse me. Week 9 was his worst, 5.9. And week 10, 17.6. So he's at least meeting his projections, and he's only blown it out the freaking gate since in the first 2 weeks. He hasn't gotten close, really. He hasn't done 20 points or better since the first 2 weeks. Other than that, he's at least most of the time at least reaching his projections.
Yeah, but you could have got somebody like Gibbs out of Detroit, who's a much lower of a draft pick, who puts up better numbers than he does at the same position.
Right.
So yeah. This is all that I'm saying. For the draft capital that he is worth, knowing what you do now, would you still take Bijan Robinson in the first round? Because I would not.
No.
This is my point. So I don't know. Let me look at that trade again. I need to see them.
As overrated as I think Kelsey really kind of has been all year long. I mean, you've heard more about the Taylor Swift shit than you've heard about the football play, which is telling. But I mean, if you look at the area where the fantasy playoffs would be, we're week 13, 14, 15, and 16. Even going back to week 12. I mean, they're on a bye this week, and they play the Eagles. That's going to be an interesting game to watch. Either it's going to be a defensive struggle or a shootout. We don't know yet. But then in week 12, he's got the Las Vegas Raiders, who they're probably going to beat, the Green Bay Packers, who they're probably going to beat, the Buffalo Bills, who they're probably going to beat, the New England Patriots, who they're probably certainly going to beat. Then they play the Raiders again in week 16. They don't really have, after Philly, they don't have a significant challenge unless the Patriots find some way to get good. They don't really have it.
That's not going to happen.
They don't have a significant challenge again until week 17 against the Bengals, in which case the fantasy season is going to be over probably. Most of them will be anyway. And in week 18, they play the Chargers, who they're probably going to beat. So, I mean, Kansas City's got kind of a powder puff schedule the rest of the way out after Philly. So, I mean, I maybe Buffalo's getting Kelsey would be good. What's that?
Yeah.
No, I said I think Buffalo is a significant challenge.
Well, the problem is
if Josh Allen is on it.
Well, if Buffalo blows it early though, it's going to get to the point where they're just running clock out, and you're not going to see Mahomes dropping back and throw to anybody, even Kelsey.
Right.
So, Josh Allen throws 2 picks that result in touchdowns in the first half. That's the ball game. They're not going to need to chuck the rock downfield a lot, which kind of neutralizes all of their receivers, not just Kelsey. So, I mean, again, I don't know what the future holds. So maybe it'll be a shootout, and maybe they'll actually have to throw the ball a lot more. But I don't know. For me, I don't know. I'm not sold on Kelsey at all this year. I think all the talk about him has been about the off-field stuff, and it just doesn't. I don't know. I'm not as enamored with him as honestly. Look, this may be the Niner fan in me talking. I'll take Kittle every day of the week and twice on Sundays over Kelsey.
But you didn't because I got him.
Well, I mean, if I had the choice, I would take Kittle every day. I got Kittle in one of my leagues, but yeah, I would take Kittle every week over Kelsey. To me, as far as Bijan, I mean, yeah, he's the only real fantasy asset they have. And well, no, the tight end. Why would I draw a blank his name? I've got it in one of my leagues.
Are you talking about for Atlanta?
For Atlanta, yeah.
They've also got Derek London at wide receiver, which he's a solid 11 to 20 points. Seems like every game almost. I've got him on a couple teams as well. He's not a bad. I wouldn't put him as a number one wide receiver, but he's a solid number two. So I just said solid number two. That's hilarious. I keep doing that. But yeah, no, they've got Derek London there as well. As far as your trade goes, I mean, I like Andrews. Mixon's good. Cook as well. I think Kansas City bounces back. Whether the refs help them out or not, I do. Like I said, even with me being disappointed in Mahomes and Kelsey, we know the NFL is going to want them to hang around for a while. Considering the team that you do have, I would make that just to get Kelsey, just to get the half of those points that you're going to get out of him and Mahomes. But like I said, I've been disappointed with his overall play. But I think when the going gets tough, closer to playoff time, I do think the Chiefs will pick it up. I would do that trade. But that's just me, and not for Bijan, but. You've got other people who can cover whatever else. So I think it'll be all right.
Yeah, but go down in the comments below and let Dylan Finnick know what you think of that trade. I'm not sold on Kelsey anymore, to be perfect. At least not this year. Maybe next year after the breakup finally happens and Taylor Swift writes a song about it, he'll be able to get back to concentrating on football. but for right now, I'm just not sold on Travis Kelsey. But go down in the comments.
Can't wait for the song about her breaking up with a Native American. We know it'll be about Travis Kelsey.
Probably. So go down in the comments. We'll let Dylan know what you think of his potential trade and his roster. Thanks, Dylan, for checking us out. We appreciate it. Again, we're just doing the football talk for fun. We mostly talk movies on here, but thanks for coming out. We very much appreciate it. Hopefully you'll consider subscribing. But now let's move on to Tex's pick 3. Tex, I honestly, I haven't been keeping track of your picks. I know you've done pretty well for the most part, just on top of my head. But what are the 3 games that you got this week that you think are
yeah, well, we haven't done this in like 3 weeks, so I forgot what I think the last two I was like 6-3 or something like that. I don't even remember. But I looked at the schedule. I've picked 3 games I think that are going to go this way. If I were to bet, I'm going to take the Commanders over Giants 21-10. The Giants have nothing. That's I mean, this is like I said, I think you can lock down and mortgage the house off of this one. Rose is going to like my second pick. I've got Miami over Las Vegas 27-14. I know the Raiders have had their whole Josh McDaniels exorcism and everything. The team's so happy to play. That doesn't mean you're a good football team. You're still the Raiders and you still suck. So it is what it is.
AJ Raider, I highly doubt AJ Raider's listening, but God forbid if he is. Hey, AJ, your ship team's going down.
And the third and most important pick of my locks of the week, my Dallas Cowboys, America's team, the 5-time Super Bowl winning champions, are playing those nasty Carolina Panthers. And we're going to smite them 30-10. Cowboys are hot. Dak and CD have figured it out. Everything's rolling the way that it should. And unfortunately, those poor Panthers have a broken leg. And we're going to have to put them down this week. So, sorry, guys. Y'all aren't going everywhere. So Cowboys, Panthers 30-10, Dolphins, Raiders 27-14, and Commanders, Giants 21-10. So we'll see how they go. But I'm locking it in, boys.
Yeah, the only thing I don't know if I can get with about that is I'm not entirely sure the Giants are going to score 10 points.
I'm being generous here.
A big part of me would be quite shocked if they actually scored 10 points.
I'm surprised.
They scored at least that much against Dallas last week, didn't they?
That's the only reason why I gave them 10 was because if they can score on the Dallas defense as good as that is, they can probably do it on Washington. That's the only reason I even gave them 10. So, like I said, that's just me being generous.
It took them 2 tries to do it, though, right, Tex?
Right. I mean, it took them a while, but they finally figured something out. But, like I said, I think I'm being generous with 10, but if more realistically, I don't even think that happens. But, we'll see.
Fair enough. I don't know. Rose, what do you think about Texas picks? Do you think that he's got something, or do you disagree with any of those games?
Honestly, I don't disagree at all with the winners whatsoever. Trying to think here. Dallas 30. I think they could score more than 30.
I said, yeah. Cowboys 30-10. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I think they're scoring more than 30. Miami could be a crapshoot. I mean, I definitely think they're going to beat the Raiders, but their defense likes to give up a lot of yards. So even when their defense is good, they give up a decent chunk of yardage. I honestly think the Raiders will score more than 20 points. I'll give them at least 20, in my opinion. I think 2 touchdowns and at least 2 field goals are fair.
I think the only person on the Raiders that's going to do anything would be Devontae Adams. Anything outside of him, I think Miami shuts them down. They do give up a lot of yards, but they've had some pretty good defensive games this year. That's why I put them at 14. So we'll see.
Right, but I want to say Miami. I'm going to say Miami 33-20 over the Raiders. I'm going to say Carolina, I'm going to give them 6. I'm not going to give them 10. I'm going to give them 6. You know what? Fuck it. I'll be generous. I'll give them 7. I'll give them a touchdown instead of 2 field goals.
He's giving them a whole 7.
I give Carolina 7. I give Dallas at least 33. So I say 33-7. I say Miami 30-20. And what'd you say? What was your third pick there, Tex? It was
Commanders, Giants. I have 21-10.
10. I think that's fair. I'll agree with you on that one. I think that's fair.
I tell you what, the only one that I want to disagree with, because I think it'd be fun to have it happen, and I'm not going to call it an upset, but I mean, because neither one of these teams are very good. I really hope that the Giants beat Washington. It's like, because they got Danny DeVito's second cousin playing quarterback. I mean, they got the whole thing.
If his mom's not there to make his bed, he's not going to play well that day. All right, just saying. If his mom's not there, it's going to depend on that.
Look, it's one of those games. It's like it's 2 terrible teams that are actually going to play a good game because they're both terrible. They're both as terrible as each other. So it may end up being almost a watchable game. And I kind of hope the Giants pull one out. Like I said, I like Brian Daboll as a coach. I think it's going to take a couple of years to really put it together there. And,
he was coach of the year last year. Don't forget.
Yeah, coach of the year last year. Won a playoff game last year with a team that just wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But and they've got Saquon Barkley, who I think is pretty good. So when you can build a team around, but you got to build that team fast. And man, they're not in it right now. I mean, what are the Giants right now? They're Jesus Christ, they're 1 forever, something like that.
I think they're 2-7.
I'm still looking at Chiefs stuff. Give me 1 second.
I think they're 2-7.
The Giants are 2-8. 2-8.
2-8. Yeah, week 10.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that they're going to be good anytime soon. They definitely need a couple years to rebuild. But I mean that's I'm not going to call it an upset because both teams are terrible. And while I expect Washington to do a little bit better, look, I like them at quarterback. I actually just picked up Sam Howell in one of my leagues. I'll be starting this week as kind of a fill-in. But and they've got some weapons, so you're probably right. But if there's going to be an upset of any of your three picks, I think it'll be the Giants in Washington. But I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just throwing it out there for the possibility of potentially maybe being right. But before we get out of here, I'll go to you first, Rose. Give us your predictions. Thursday night football, the Bengals of Cincinnati travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Who do you got in Thursday night football tomorrow night, sir?
So the Ravens are home, correct?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
I'm giving it to Baltimore. I think it'll be a close game. I will say, I'm going to say 14-10, Baltimore. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. It's going to be close.
Tex, how about you? Baltimore hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Who do you think's got Thursday night football tomorrow night?
If I remember correctly, when they played earlier in the year, Baltimore won by a field goal, and that was in Cincinnati. So give me Baltimore by a touchdown. I'll go 21-14 Baltimore.
Much like my 49ers, I think the Bengals are all the way back into form that they've had. Look, the last couple of seasons, they've done very, very well. I think they're all the way back. Baltimore seems to be one of those teams where just when you think they've found their stride, they hit something that kind of that limits them. There are aspects about them that I don't like that I like about the Bengals. I'm taking the Bengals 21-17. I consider that kind of a low-scoring game when you consider some of the weapons that Cincinnati has. I mean, Jamar Chase alone is always a risk for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, the guy's just a monster. Burrow's back in form. He's fully healthy again, as my Niners found out so tragically a couple of weeks ago. He's all the way back and healthy. I think the Bengals really are right now. They are still the class in that division. I think they got off to a slow start, which is not unlike the Bengals. They generally do get off to some. Look, both big Cincinnati teams, the Reds and the Bengals. You guys may not know this. I live an hour north of Cincinnati, but so I see this a lot. They're really weird in that they start the season relatively slow. It's really odd, and then they whatever their rhythm is, whether it be good or bad, they fall into it as they move on. But I really do think the Bengals are all the way back. I think they're in good form right now. They're healthy. They got a great coach. They've obviously got a ton of talented players. I would like them to have a better defense, but that's something I'm sure they can build over the next year or two and really take a push at a title. But I'm taking the Bengals 21-17. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think if the ball ends up in Burrow's hands at the end of the game, with the game on the line in the fourth quarter, I think he can do it. I don't have that same confidence in Lamar Jackson. Again, he's one of those running quarterbacks. Running quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls. They just don't. And I know this isn't the Super Bowl, I know, but it seems like those running quarterbacks throughout, as long as I've been watching football, those guys have not been able to win the important games. So for the most part, there have been some outliers, but yeah, for the most part. So yeah, I'm taking the Bengals 21-17, and in what I consider a relatively low-scoring game. But there's our show for tonight. Thank you guys for coming to hang out with us. I want to thank my amazing co-host for being so cool. My man, Tex, the Shake from Lone Star State. Where can the folks at home find you, my friend?
Oh, right here tomorrow night, reviewing Dungeons and Dragons. I forget what the rest of the title is. It's the second film, I believe. But
Honor Among Thieves.
Honor Among Thieves. Yes, sorry, I forgot what it was. Sorry, it's been a long day. Yeah, we'll be here reviewing that tomorrow night. So come check us out. Movie recommendation of the day. Last night, I don't know how I missed this, but IFC and AMC Plus and Shudder, they brought a film out. It's from Argentina. It's all in Spanish, so you're going to need subtitles or understand Spanish. When Evil Lurks. It's basically a film that takes place in a very rural community in Argentina. about the birth of the Antichrist with like a demon possession thing, but it kind of works like a zombie outbreak. Very interesting, very much of a slow burn, low budget feel, but the kills are amazing and nobody is safe. They do not hold back. So go check out When Evil Lurks. I think it's on AMC Plus, I believe is where you can watch it at. I watched it on the Shutter app, but it is what it is. So go check it out.
Have you checked out the one I sent you in the DM yet?
I have not yet. I've got that on the queue, but I haven't worked my way down to that.
I mean, obviously it hasn't been made yet, but I wanted you to at least look at it and read the
Right.
synopsis and at least maybe formulate.
Yeah, no, it's on the list. I'll be checking it out. But yeah, When Evil Lurks, pretty good film.
The one I sent you was successfully crowdfunded about 4 times over. So.
Right. Yeah.
And to our good friend, the Rose Gaming, he does everything gaming, one of the many video game experts in the community. What do you got going on the internet, my friend?
Actually, in about an hour or so, I'm going to stream Need for Speed Unbound tonight and tomorrow. I'm almost done with that game. I want to finish this game because on Friday, the Super Mario RPG remake comes out, and I'm very much looking forward to playing through that. So I'll be starting that. I'll be streaming that probably at least 2 out of the next 3 days. Mortal Kombat 1, I'll be streaming some more of that on Friday night for Mortal Friday. Now, I used to do my Mortal Kombat stuff on Mondays, but another channel that I watch does content on Mondays, so I'm going up against that. So I figured, let me move mine to Fridays. I might stand a better chance in the numbers. And then, of course, Sunday night, we didn't do Less Than Serious last week because Casey was moving some stuff into his new apartment. So this week, with or without him, the next episode of Less Than Serious will happen. And we're going to talk about Gerard the Completionist on YouTube. He got busted. And there's some shit going on. He runs a foundation who runs a yearly fundraiser charity to fight dementia. And it's been found out that while he's been claiming all the money they've been raising over the years for his foundation to give the money to various charities to go, for research against dementia and stuff and to, how to beat it and, maybe find a cure for it, found out that he hasn't actually been donating the money and it's just actually been sitting in a bank account and not being touched. So he's been under fire for that. We're going to talk about that Sunday. Obviously, Week 11 of the NFL. We'll talk a little bit about that and go over the fantasy leagues, the results of the fantasy leagues. We're going to talk about, of course, the upcoming Thanksgiving. Of course, we always go over the following week of the NFL and their matchups for Week 12. We're going to talk about Thanksgiving, of course, and the Black Friday, since now everybody apparently starts their Black Friday sales like 2 weeks early. So you can go, we'll look up all the sales and we'll discuss some things on, in like each of the most popular departments, like electronics, video games, stuff like that, movies, what you want to look for in sales, what you might want to avoid, in terms of what's not looking as good in price and what you might be able to get cheaper on another sale closer to Christmas. So we'll go over all that on Sunday. Less Than Serious, I believe I want to say episode 79. So
go check that out.
We'll be doing all that on
Casey.
Sunday night.
Go check that out over on Casey is Raw. Link to both Casey's channel and the Rose's channel is in the description down below. Go check them out for all your video game entertainment. As for me, you will find me here with the normal crew and hopefully Lady Cora tomorrow as we go into Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I was actually just reading a couple of reviews about it earlier today in my downtime, and a lot of people are saying it's much better than they thought it was going to be. It's actually a pretty good movie, so I'm excited to touch base on that one with the crew. Again, this month is going to be catching up on a few movies that we haven't been able to do the last year or so that we haven't been able to get around to. Looking forward to that. And then, of course, I don't know, next week, what are we doing? We've got some more fantasy football. Renfield next week is coming up. And then, of course, with Thanksgiving coming up, we'll probably be doing JFK. It's that time of year where we start talking about what really happened. Did he get shot from the grassy knoll? Was he a lone gunman? So it's always going to be a debate about that whole incident that took the life of John Kennedy back in 1963 in Dallas. So We'll be doing that as well. And hopefully Alex might be joining us for that as well, from Alex the Garbage Man. So I know he said he was interested in joining us for that one. I'll reach out to him to see if he's going to be joining us for that. Hopefully he will. But the next couple of movie reviews are going to be awful fun. Starting tomorrow with Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. That is all for us tonight. Thanks to all of you for coming to hang out with us tonight. We very much appreciate it. Thanks to the Rose for coming and hanging out. Hopefully when we do more football talk for the rest of the year, he will be here to hang out with us as well. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Till then, adios.
Just a quick correction, Frank. Less Than Serious is on my channel.
Oh, well, yeah. Go look at them both. Go look at them both. Go watch them both.
And congratulations on finally hitting that 500 subscriber mark. I'll be checking out your animal charity stream when you do it.
We will be doing that New Year's Eve. That'll probably be the New Year's Eve hangout. So come hang out with us and donate to the Abandoned Pet Project. See you guys later. Bye.